This build features content that I got for free through the EA Creator Network. Hello, today I am building a fairy cottage, which I was going to avoid doing because I'm a paranoid person and I get nervous easily. And if you haven't seen the news already, I am one of the official lot builders for The Sims 4 Enchanted by Nature, and I was so nervous about questions being asked before I could say anything. And so I've even just been avoiding saying too much about the news because I'm just scared. But now I can talk about it a little bit because it was announced on the Sims blog. And because of that, I'm now able to join everybody else in the excitement and build a fairy home. And if you haven't seen the blog post, I'm just going to briefly show it because I don't want to talk over the beginning of my speed build because I want to be able to walk people through how I make my sloping stairs. And I know that I talk over things a lot in my videos, so this is my introduction for it. But on the blog, you can see some of the world and some of the lots that we built. So you could see my name right here alongside the Sims girls, Nina Schmidt and Sandra Picca. And if you scroll down just a little bit, you can see one of the builds that I made for the pack. I'm going to get emotional, but if you haven't seen it, this is my build. I posted on some of my socials. You can see that it's very much my style. You can see the incredible new items that are coming to the game. I'm so excited to be able to build with this pack like constantly. This is the pack I'm going to use in like every single one of my builds. I can't show the other builds yet, but I will have content up when I'm allowed to. But I built 3 lots for the pack. I built the Whistling Thistle Gardens, which is this one you see right here, the Star Song Lounge, as well as 8 Gnome Coast Street. So I'm excited to be able to show it. And now that I kind of gave an explanation on why I've been so scared to build fairy cottages, we can actually get into me building my fairy cottage that I built this weekend. That took longer than I thought, but I knew I was gonna have to yap just a little bit about it for an explanation before we actually got into the terrain of this build, because I did want to explain the staircase just a little bit, because it's something anybody can do. It just takes some time and practice. You could see that I used different terrain tools and I raised them up to a certain height. I then just messily placed down these base game low fence pieces, which Sims can walk right over, so it's like not a problem. And then I clean it up a little bit. I will drag the harshness of the slope down to being very delicate so that I can bounce the railing back up to actually make it even and not completely messy. I do like messy stairs. The reason I started making these stairs was because I didn't understand the basement trick people do, where they create a basement and they raise up wooden objects or stone objects, and they create the illusion of stairs with like fake pieces. And I believe Sims can walk up it because if you put them in the basement, your Sims can walk through it without a problem. That was too many steps for me. I couldn't even like understand how people did it. And I was like, you know what? I want to do a staircase that's kind of old and run down, a little crooked, and so I started doing that. It was like my first ever speed build on YouTube too, where I was like, I want like uneven stairs. And back then it was like, I don't know, like 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I don't remember now. But I was not as good at making them as I am now. So you could see I did it very quickly. And that's because it's just years of practice with the terrain tool and doing that same sort of thing. And you can do lots of different things with this sort of terrain staircase. I have a similar one at the back of this build that like curves a little bit, which that one is a little bit messy and it looks a little odd at places, especially like having the base game low fence as a diagonal. I pretend like it looks perfectly fine and I ignore that because I like the look of the winding staircase with the railings and stuff. But that's my explanation on how I do it. And I could do a more detailed tutorial actually showing the terrain tool off, because I know the terrain tool is very intimidating, but it really just takes a lot of practice because like back a couple of years ago. I was afraid of the tool mod. I did not know how it worked, and I was afraid of terrain. And I just kind of like forced myself to start learning it because I really liked other people's builds and I wanted to build like them. And now it's become a little bit easier for me to work with terrain and stuff. And so you could see my terrain that I made for this little cottage. I was so happy to be able to like make a fairy build because I was really paranoid about just like saying things 'cause I was scared. And I know that, like, I don't know if other people do my stare technique. I haven't really seen it before. And so I was like, people who know me and like my friends on Instagram and stuff, I feel like if they show my build in any of the like promotional stuff, I feel like people are going to catch on. And then it's like, I'm worried that if I do a speed build and I'm building like a fairy home like everybody else who's so excited for the pack, I'm like, Megan, you can't like I'm like, when I say stuff and I'm nervous and I'm like hiding something, I feel like it can be like heard and like shown like easily. And so I was like, okay, no fairy cottage. Like last week I uploaded a red floral cottage and I was like, yeah, I was inspired by all the recent news. And that's like, I kept it very short because I was worried. But we all know that I love naturey forest builds. It's like my one comfort style to build in. It's like the style that I can just space out and I can create a world that I would go off and escape to and I'm feeling stressed and anxious. That's like kind of how I build. And usually, if I really just do want to space out, it's normally doing some sort of landscape and just a very calm cottage that would feel like a very like peaceful place to be, which is how I feel about this build too. I kind of rushed this one, which like and I decided not to use rocks like I usually do. Like normally I use rocks to hide some of the terrain paint. I thought it would be nicer to make it a little bit like more lush and have like grass and stuff covering the steeper slopes. Okay, and back here is me trying to make the stairs again. This one is a little bit more difficult and you need to play around just a little bit more with the like raise to height and smooth terrain tool, but you could get the hang of it like pretty easily if you just keep practicing. And you can see that like this like change from one angle to the other looks a little bit funny, but it's like it's just gonna look like that. And that's a sacrifice that I'm willing to make just to have a little bit of a curve in some of the staircases. You could do some really cool stuff with this too. I've made a bridge, which was in one of my landscape ASMR videos. You can have like terrain sloping up and then to a flat piece of foundation and sloping back down and using that stair technique. And it looks like a very natural bridge over, which I really like to do. You could even do it without having the foundation there. So it's just all terrain. You can do a lot with it. But like I've never put these I think their base game, like large branches growing out of the ground. I've never really put those near the stairs before. I have used those to create like whimsical fence pieces before, like a long time ago. And this time I was like, you know, this would be kind of cool to place these around. I did have to move the very large one back a little bit because it was blocking Sims from walking up the stairs, which was another thing that someone asked was how Sims walk up it. And someone watched one of my other videos and wished that I had shown the sim walking up. So I'm going to make sure that you can see the sim walking up the stairs. And so to make sure that I could show that, I had to make sure that it was actually working that way. Because sometimes if you're doing these stairs, your sim, if there is another access point, they might just like walk up a different slope to get to it. And you can redirect them by making it steeper on both sides and make sure that a sim can't like take another pathway through it. So right here, there's like no problem because there's a giant lake that's blocking that. Well, not giant lake, a small pond. There's a small pond blocking, so the sim can't just walk up there. There's other items in the way on the other side, so your sims can't like take that route. They walk directly up these stairs, which you'll probably see in the opening of this video. I probably would have done it there. But you'll also be able to see me make those stairs when I am able to post my videos of my builds for the new pack, and you'll be able to see how you can do it without mods and without cheats. So if you're on console, it is definitely possible to make these stairs as well. You don't need tool mod to create them or even move objects. It's a little bit more work, but it is doable. And I think that it really just makes a build feel more connected with the ground around it and just feel very natural, which I feel like I really love how it looks on this build, and it inspired me to place more of those branches growing out of the ground around to kind of make it feel like there's like trees growing like through the build in a way, not like through the build, but like it's growing into a tree. And I really liked that look. And I once again was like, I didn't really know what kind of like wallpapers I wanted to use. I didn't even know what I wanted the interior of this to look like. I just knew that I wanted to make a cute floral landscape and I wanted to just like have some more like roundish looking roof pieces for this build. I was playing around with the front door a lot because I didn't like how it sat, and then I was like, "Do I need to move the entire stairs over just a little bit?" And I was going to, and I was like, "I'm not doing all of that." And it didn't matter anyway because it's not like you can place fence pieces on half tiles, so it wouldn't have mattered. Like I would have had to have it over exactly a half tile for it to line up perfectly with the front door based on how I placed it. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to ignore it. And I think it makes it look like uneven with the window above the door. Like I feel like you could tell more that it's a little bit uneven. So I do remove the window all the way at the end, which I think makes it look better. And I'm using the Realm of Magic glowing orbs of light to create sort of like a fairy sparkle magical element to the exterior of the build. I place some more around after, which I didn't really show because you don't need to see me placing the same glowing light a bunch of times throughout my landscape, but you do see a few of them, which I just raise up and I use, like, I Better Build By installed, so getting debug and live edit objects is very quick and simple for me to do. And I was primarily focusing on the landscape around the build itself because I wanted a smaller lot to make this because I did not want to have to do a huge lot, but I couldn't really find any other ones that gave me just enough space. So I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna use this lot. It is a little bit bigger than what I wanted, but I'm just going to make the like the whole right side is pretty much just nothing. I place some extra grass around in patches and it's just like hidden in trees. But realistically, maybe that's just the overgrown areas of the cottage that they don't really go to. And the main focus is just framing the build and placing the flowers and mushrooms along this pathway leading up to the inside of the build, which I really like the inside. It's not like fully conventional floor plan, which made it very quick and easy for me to decorate. It's very open. There's a couple places that are closed off, like the kitchen is its own separate room and the bathroom is. But the inside is pretty much just like a staircase in the middle of the room, and there's just a bunch of flowers placed around, and there's a small dining room table and a couch. And that's like it for the downstairs. And the upstairs is just an open bedroom as well. I wanted it to just feel like they just were throwing stuff inside of this, and the inside was taken over by nature at some point. And I was playing around with the idea of having the windows be open, like using the ones from werewolves. But I don't like how it looks from the outside sometimes because I feel like the lighting looks a little bit off. And I was like, no, I'm just going to pretend like it's just grown through elsewhere and that it's not like open to the elements, which I'm now showing right now, where I was just placing the stairs to know where I was going to position them so that they wouldn't take up too much space upstairs because I knew that was going to be a bedroom. I wasn't sure like how much the stuff I could fit up there. I do end up just doing a single bed. I think maybe I could have squeezed in a double bed if I like alt place a little bit, and but I feel like it would just seemed so crowded, and a single bed is fine for this size lot. And I've been really enjoying the flowers from the Romantic Garden stuff pack. I've been using them a lot in the last couple of months. I really like how they look, and I sized some of them outside too. They look really good sized up. They do look a little bit funny inside with the kind of like the lighting changes, but I'm not like that picky about it, where I'm like, you know what, I want these flowers in this corner here. It's okay if they're slightly like darker than the rest of the items. And I did try and place some lights around to brighten it up just a little bit. And I love this door from Life and Death. It's one of my favorite doors. I don't get to use it very often because it's 2 tiles, and most of the time I want a single tile door. But I wish that like I made my builds big enough so that I can always use those large doors for the inside. I really like how it looks, especially in this build. I think it looks really good with the cottage living doors too. The interior to like start, it took me a little bit to try and get the flow of building it, but after a while then it like all came together very quickly, which this entire build I built much faster than some of my other ones. So I was so excited. And I built this like after all the news was out because I was like, now I can upload a fairy build. And so I was like, you know what? I don't feel like working on the build that I was currently working on. And I didn't want to rush it because it's for my Haunted Copperdale save file. And it's the auditorium for like the high school, and I didn't want to rush it, and I knew that it would take me a lot more time to finish the interior of that. I was like, well, I can do a very quick, tiny build, and these nature builds are like they flow so much more naturally for me that I can finish one pretty quickly compared to like any other style. And so the exterior was just like done in within an hour, I think. And the interior, I took a couple of breaks before I actually got into it because I wasn't really sure what to do with the floor plan of this. And once I got the bedroom done is when I was able to like tackle the downstairs because that was the most intimidating part of the build because it had a weird floor plan. It didn't like it's pretty much completely open everywhere. But picking out the items for this much smaller space up here helped me because then I was able to just copy and paste some of them downstairs, like the rose bushes that is also a romantic garden. And I ended up being able to bring that back downstairs as well as some other plants here and there. But I really love the bedroom. I feel like it's very enchanting, and I had like a couple of candles around. It feels very cozy, and I love these stone walls in this. I end up bringing these stone walls downstairs because I think part of what I was like not liking about the downstairs was how plain the walls looked, because I was trying to just use plain ones that I used on some of the parts on the exterior, but I think it looks so much better with stone walls. So I use these and I mix them with some other brick walls from Realm of Magic, and that becomes like the primary wallpapers that I use down here. And I just use, I think these are just base game grass flower flooring and that I'm never able to use in any build, but I was like, you know what, I think I can use it for this one. And I do really like how it looks. I had to pull out some items just so that I could start thinking of where certain rooms are going to be, even though I wasn't sure if there was going to be rooms. It did become a lot easier once I sectioned off the kitchen and I decided to use some walls to close it in. And it's like the perfect size kitchen. It didn't need to really be any bigger. There's a sink, a counter, a stove, a fridge. So it has everything that you need. I was going to put a window, which you could see I'm placing now, but I thought it looked so strange, and I was like, you know what, maybe it doesn't even need a window, because I think the window's just bringing more attention to how strange this room is and how like dark it is. Because even the lighting in there is weird. The window kind of looks darker than the other parts of the room. So I end up just getting rid of it. It's like a weird place for a window too, because I feel like that part of it seems almost like it would be like a support column, which like a window wouldn't be there. And I really like just having a shelf by the sink, and I didn't want a window on the front, and then I didn't want a window next to the other window I have that's directly next to it. And I couldn't really make the kitchen one tile wider, or else the dining area would have felt very closed in, which I thought like it would look nicer to have a more open spot for the table, especially for pictures. And I was able to put more flowers around there to make it feel like a very cozy place to sit down and eat. And now I'm changing the wallpapers, and this is where I'm like, okay, good. I'm liking this now because it just felt so plain before and like way too bright with that wall, and having the stone inside really helps. And you can see I do the same sort of thing in the kitchen. But I leave the wall with the shelf on the lighter color because I liked how it looked with the herbs and the flowers, and I didn't want to change it. And I knew that I wanted to have a lot of different frames around that were like golden. I wanted it to feel kind of elegant and just like a magical place hidden off into a forest. And so, I don't know, for some reason, really expensive looking frames mixed in with flowers feels very fairy to me. And so I have the like haunted painting that changes next to some very tiny frames. I also take a base game mirror and I put it in with some flowers, and I use Tool Mod to slightly put it on an angle and make it seem like it's like propped up by a stool. And it's just kind of thrown in the middle of the room, which made it a little bit more difficult to figure out where I wanted the living room space to be. But I knew I wasn't going to have a TV in this build. And I was like, okay, I just need a couch and a coffee table because I want to put a tea set on the coffee table. And there ended up being just enough space for it. It kind of is a little bit cramped next to the stairs, but my idea was like they just threw this furniture in and it doesn't really matter. And that was the way I justified the coffee table being like pretty close to the staircase. It doesn't cause any problems with your Sims walking up the stairs though, because I did make sure that the Sims could walk around the bedroom because I realized that maybe your Sims couldn't get around some of it, but like I just went in to record the intro of my Sim walking up the stairs and I was like, you know what, let me just double check and I'll make sure that the kitchen is functional and the bathroom as well. I don't think there should be any problems, but I do have some large branches outside that could like the footprint of it could technically be by the house. That has happened to me so many times where I'm like, yeah, the build definitely works, and then there's just like a debug item outside that I didn't realize is like poking into the actual floor plan of the house. So I'll just make sure that that's like all working. But for like the rest of the build, I'm just putting down a couple items. I'm fixing the lighting, and I do end up deleting the giant ceiling lights. I don't know if it's in the video if I kept that in, but I do remember to take them out because at this point I kind of forgot that they were there, and I was like, oh, I need to remove those and actually put in my own lights because I wanted cute lighting and not just the giant saucer lights at the ceiling that I use just to like brighten it up so I'm not looking at a dark room while I'm building. Yeah, I don't think I actually show it, but I just deleted it and I probably add like one other ceiling light. But now we're into the screenshots of the build. And if you would like to support me, I do have a Sims creator code. It is up on the screen. It is CrackedKyber. And I would appreciate if you use it. It's not a discount code, but I do receive a small commission from it. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. And I'll see you next week. Bye.